2 years after she died of sepsis, an inquest has decided that 13-year-old Chloe Longster's life could have been saved if it wasn't for a catalogue of failures and neglect at the NHS hospital where she was being treated.
Chloe's mum, Louise, is frightened that lessons have not been learned from her daughter's death, and she's desperate for change to ensure that no other family has to go through what they've been through. And we're going to speak to Louise this morning. First, though, here's Michelle Morrison with Chloe's story.
Once the image of a young and healthy teenager, but Chloe Longster was later failed by a string of errors by those who should have been looking after her. Khloe was taken into intensive care at Kettering General Hospital after developing unbearable pain. 18 hours later, she died after a catalogue of failures. She hadn't been treated in time. The coroner ruled the gross failures amounted to neglect.
Justice for Khloe is having her true experience finally heard, acknowledged, and that no child will ever have to suffer again in the way she did.
The hospital's chief nurse insists 2 years on, improvements have been made.
When Khloe was at her most vulnerable, she didn't get the care she should have, and her parents' voice was not heard. And I'm really sorry for that.
Chloe's family say lessons must truly be learned following her death, which should never have happened.
Well, as you can see, Chloe's mother, Louise, is with us now, alongside Dr Ron Daniels. He's the founder and chief medical officer of the UK Sepsis Trust. He's here to tell us how we can spot sepsis and how parents can be empowered to get something done while there's still time. Because that's, as a parent, with a daughter called Chloe as well, actually, what really tore at my heartstrings about your story was that as a mother, there you were at the hospital, and every instinct, every fibre of your being was saying to you, this ain't right, there's something badly wrong here, but nobody would listen to you.
That's certainly how it felt until about 10:30 at night, and we'd already been there for about 9.5 hours by that point.
Because you know your own daughter, you know what she's like, you know how she responds to sickness by then, and you could tell it wasn't right.
Absolutely. I think anybody could tell it wasn't right. When we were sent down for X-ray around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, a teenager offered Chloe her space ahead of her.
Wow.
if she was called before Chloe.
Because even that teenage patient could tell that Chloe was seriously ill.
Yes.
And Chloe had had a cold, hadn't she?
Yeah, quite a mild cold as well, it was.
So initially you weren't worried, but that had developed into pneumonia.
Yes.
Now, the trouble was that Chloe was susceptible to sepsis, but nobody put her on a pathway to life-saving treatment in the event that she might have sepsis. And as we know, sepsis is a killer disease.
I think what's really troubling and what we learnt last week in the inquest was actually sepsis was being screened just in a haphazard way. And when the the Pew's score, which Dr Ron, I'm sure, will be able to explain a little bit more, when that should have been triggering a more rapid response, it seems it wasn't. So, yeah, terrifying.
And she knew, I mean, quite apart from
the
distress she was going through, she actually said to you, am I going to die?
Yeah, that was upon the paediatric unit, and she wasn't in as much pain. But when she said that, I just remember thinking, she feels rubbish. She feels really rubbish. But did I think that she was going to die at that point? No. Absolutely not. No, I didn't.
One of the things I think that is so shocking about what happened to you was you were in hospital at the time.
Yep.
You believed you were getting the best care you could, but you weren't.
No.
You didn't know that. But you were advocating for your daughter, as any parent would.
Yes.
But you were treated like a neurotic mother.
Yes.
This I've heard, many of us will have heard over and over again. And Chloe herself was spoken to by a nurse when she was in pain, and what was she told? She was told to calm down.
Yeah, she was, that was when Chloe was panting in A&E, and the nurse came and sort of sternly told her that she was making her pain worse. She needed to breathe properly.
Well, almost that she was putting it on.
Yeah, that's how it felt. Yeah, that's how it felt, very much so.
The thing is, Dr. Ron Daniels, you are a practising intensive care doctor as well as the Chief Medical Officer of the UK Sepsis Trust. There are at least two alarm bells, if not more, there. One of which is the panting, because that's a sign, isn't it, of sepsis?
Yeah.
But the other is a feeling that you are going to die. That's actually something, that's not an alarmist...
It's one of the symptoms.
It's one of the 6 symptoms that we encourage people to look for, and we say, and we agreed it with Public Health England as was, that if anyone has one of those 6 symptoms, you need to go straight to A&E, and it's an emergency response.
So go through those 6 symptoms for us.
These are the symptoms that apply to adults and young people, so someone of Chloe's age, and they spell the word sepsis. S for slurred speech or confusion, E for extreme shivering or muscle pain, P for passing no urine or no water in a day, S for severe breathlessness, I for it feels like I'm going to die, and then the final S for skin that's mottled or discoloured or very pale. And any one of those 6, it's go straight to hospital and expect them to take you really seriously.
Given that it's... You boil it down to such clarity, right? And any 2 of those 6, bang, we have an emergency. Why is this not an uncommon story? One reads again and again and again of sepsis going undiagnosed and people unnecessarily dying. What's the problem?
So we were talking about this, weren't we? That I've sat on a sofa like this with Melissa Mead a decade ago talking about this problem. And I just feel for every parent who's been going through this over the years, hearing stories like Chloe's occur again and again.
So
now,
why is it happening?
So I think if we look at Chloe's case, yes, there were some health professionals involved in her care who were performing better than others, some who were performing worse than others. But to me, this is around the culture of the organisation. It's around supporting decision-making, supporting escalation to more senior health professionals, encouraging them to take action. If you've got a sick child and you choose to act, even if they turn out not to be as sick as you initially thought, at least you've done something.
Sorry.
Absolutely.
There's so many painful moments during the inquest. A nurse said, I didn't consider doing the sepsis screening. I just didn't think about it. A doctor saying she didn't look like someone who was going to deteriorate. A doctor saying A&E was extremely busy. A&E was heaving. I mean, welcome to A&E. That is what A&E is like right now.
For us, I think what's really hard is it was around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so 3 hours after we'd been there, that Chloe's X-ray and blood results were back. And they'd already had some vital signs that show that Chloe needed urgent antibiotics. So I just don't understand why everything was so delayed when we know what happened.
She was put on antibiotics, and then another medical professional said they weren't the right antibiotics, but had presumed they were, but didn't check the medication.
That's correct, yeah.
Look, this is a tragedy because the coroner says...
Neglect.
If Chloe had received the treatment, not some specialised treatment, just the treatment for sepsis, she would have survived.
And what is the treatment?
So we at the Sepsis Trust developed a bundle of care called the Sepsis 6. There's only 6 things in it, 6 simple steps, including antibiotics, that have been shown to dramatically improve the person's chance of survival. And as you say, this is not about intensive care, it's not about ECMO, it's not about highfalutin therapies. It's basic stuff that any junior doctor, any junior nurse, if they're working with a prescriber, can deliver.
What were your last exchanges with Chloe?
It was just before she went for... They were going to intubate her, and I told her that everything was going to be OK, and when she comes round, we were taking Dad's credit card to go shopping. So, yeah.
I know that you remember Chloe, don't you, every day with these little wooden hearts that you call Chloe's confetti.
Yeah.
And they're things... They're little... hearts where you want to take them to places where she would have loved to have been.
Yes, yeah.
And here they are. Here we go, Richard. And we would have loved to have met Chloe because, you know, it would have been in different circumstances. What an amazing opportunity that would have been.
Yeah, absolutely.
And where else have you put these?
Oh, they're all over the world. So friends and family are taking them wherever they go. And it's incredible. It's on it, and we're like mapping it, and it's on Instagram. So yeah.
Yeah, you can follow that account on Instagram. Dr. Ron Daniels, I just wonder why the medical staff are still so resistant. Why there isn't a sort of proactive, this could be sepsis, get intravenous antibiotics in. What is the reason? Why are medical staff still holding back?
So our message to the government is sepsis needs to be taken as seriously as stroke. If you took a family member into hospital and they had a weak face or a weak arm and no one was doing anything, you would be rightly horrified because you know what needs to be done. That's what we need to do with sepsis. With sepsis, of course, antibiotics, some health professionals, quite rightly, will be worried about antibiotic resistance.
That's what
and
I wondered.
they won't want to give them out if they're not needed. But we need to get this culture right.
And very briefly, if you're a parent and you're in a situation like this and you're not being listened to and all your instincts are telling you, and basically possibly you've seen this interview and you're picking up on the symptoms, what can you do to get them to take action?
So we call it graded assertiveness. So the first thing we can say is, just ask, could it be sepsis? So you're a parent sitting there, you've been told your daughter's got pneumonia. Just ask that question, do you think it's sepsis? If they're still not doing anything, then go further. How can you reassure me it's not sepsis? How can you be certain it's not sepsis? And then, of course, we can exercise Martha's rule, which is the right to a second opinion. Now, Khloe had a second opinion, but the right thing still wasn't done. So that's not infallible.
And Louise, what would you say to any mum?
I think just ask really, like, just keep asking questions. So one thing myself and my husband will kick ourselves for was when there did seem to be some proactiveness at sort of 10:30 at night, because everyone was busy and caring for Khloe, we didn't ask as many questions as we perhaps would have done earlier on in the day, because they seemed to know what they were doing.
It's totally understandable. Totally understandable.
But had they have told us what they were doing, and we're not medics, we'd have gone, what about a chest infection? You know, so, yeah, I think it's really important. And parents need to be part of the treatment, like a part of the care plan.
Totally right.
You know, because I absolutely knew in my gut that she was poorly. I didn't think she was going to die. I knew how poorly she was.
Louise, what you're doing in speaking out is so powerful, and it will empower parents to be able to just ask those questions that they may not have felt confident asking. Thank you so much.
No problem.
And Dr. Ron for, you know, educating us all on the signs of sepsis. It's going to save lives. Thank you so much. The University Hospitals of Northamptonshire said in the 2 years since Khloe died, our teams have worked hard to make significant improvements, including management of patients with sepsis and those who are not getting better.
OK, well, if you've been affected by any of the stuff that we've been going through here, then you can find advice and support, as always, at itv.com/helplines.
Thank you both.
Thank you.